Mackay.
Happy summer.
Happy summer. It's hot.
It's you can see me glistening.
It's the glow, the ladies' glow that you apparently now have inherited.
Absolutely. We don't. We have a few room air conditioners. Actually, I dropped one of the air conditioners out the window the other day, and it's no longer functional. My wife is not happy with me at the
I feel like
time.
all of us has almost done it, but I guess you just had to push it over the edge. Like,
Yeah, we've anyway. I don't think I've ever done that. I've come close a few times, but I've caught them. They're the little cheapy ones. You don't have like these
yeah,
giant whole house window unit things.
yeah.
But anyway, it's like we're in central New York, so for the most part, it doesn't get too hot. But it's been a warmer summer than usual.
Come on
But
down to
the
Virginia. We are humid and toasty.
listen, I grew up in D.C., so
No, you can't say
I'll
anything about
take your
humidity there.
Western Virginia humidity
Yeah.
and trade it with the city built on a swamp any day. God, those were
Sorry, DC people.
my. That's the truth. I lived there. I was born there. I'm a DCEN or whatever they call them. Literally in the District of Columbia, not in Rockville, not in Vienna, not outside, in the city. So
In the swamp.
top
Wait,
that.
never mind. We can't say that anymore.
Well, that's. I'm not talking about the political swamp. I'm talking about the actual swamp.
There's a lot of metaphors going on here, people. We'll just slide right past
Multiple
that. All
levels.
right.
Exactly. Hey, the big news on our farm is we got a beehive.
That's so cool.
We're so excited about it. And so I'm going to crack the hive tomorrow and have a look inside and see how they're doing. So we have 5 frames where it came, one with full honey and the other with brood. And so they are either hatching or should be hatching pretty soon. And
Do
so
you
if
have
they're
your full outfit and
if they
everything? Like,
I got like long leather gloves and the
wow.
doofy hat, but I'll just
So if
wear
we see you
jeans.
next week and you have some injuries, we'll know what happened. Somebody didn't
Yeah,
want to buy the full suit.
I'm cheap. It's true.
We'll
It's
cross our
true.
fingers for you.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
This week we have, meanwhile, back in the world of Lyme disease. Well, some people do the bee thing, right? The bee venom therapy. I've interviewed a
Yeah,
couple people
I
over the
got a
years
good
about
sting
that.
yesterday, and I was like, "Oh man, I hope it's going after my Lyme. This is good." I will,
Well,
I think it has to be a little more intentional than that, but that was my optimism for the day.
it's one of those kind of homeopathic kind of things where you irritate your system in order to wake it back up.
Yeah.
And Lyme does suppress your immune system. We're not 100% sure of the exact mechanism, but it's pretty clear at this point that it does suppress your immune system. And if you've got mold, that's also very immune suppressive. So if you give the immune system a little kick in the rear end, all of a sudden it wakes back up and says, "Oh, I better be doing something." So that's kind of the idea behind the bee venom. And some people just absolutely swear by it, and they don't have allergic. They keep an EpiPen around, so they do it safely. Blah blah blah. Not my preferred method of therapy. Did
Yeah,
you?
it was
Are
a
you? Are
time
you?
commitment for me. I believe it's a year to 2 years of consistent stinging, and I was like, I just
Is it?
don't know that I'm that tough yet.
Is
Like,
it really that long?
yeah, yeah. So just, continually supporting that immune system, waking it up, providing the like anti-venom. But I was like, I just don't know that I'm that tough, but man, it seems to really work for people.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the funny thing about treating Lyme disease. And one reason we're renewing Lyme Ninja Radio is to encourage you to keep going and find something that works for you. Because there are a zillion different treatments out there at this point, and there are some really good ones. And a lot of them are pretty good, like they work more often than they don't, but there's no magic cure, right? So don't, if you're out there and you've tried something and you planned on it and did the research and you got all your hope and put it in that hope basket and then you took it to, whatever, bee venom or ozone or UV therapy or an herbal protocol or hyperbaric oxygen, whatever it is, like a monotherapy, and it didn't work out for you, it's okay. That story is the story of most people. It's like it's kind of like getting married. Dating sucks until it doesn't, right? Until you stop, right? So
I didn't know if this was going to be try as many marriages as possible, try as many
no,
treatments as
no.
possible. Wait a second.
On the dating side, not the marriage side. Hopefully, you get the marriage thing right the first time. Except
I
if
think
you're
your
my
wife is
brother.
going
Hi,
to be
Keith.
calling after this
Yeah.
episode.
My brother took 3 times to get it right, but he seems to have finally figured it out. So
There you go. And maybe Lyme is just like that. You just got to marry around a little bit.
no, Kate. Whatever you know. But actually, that is the message: is don't give up hope. And our interview today is with Vivienne, and she has a wonderful story, and I think she'll give you all some hope. And we're going to try a little new format today, so we may stop in between. We're going to do live reaction to the video. This, of course, I interviewed her, but Lauren hasn't seen this before, so we'll see if Lauren gets inspired to chime in and comment. So here we go. So, Vivienne, welcome to Lyme Ninja Radio. I'm so happy to hear your story and how you got into and out of Lyme disease, because it can be done.
Yes, it can. My pleasure to be here.
And you're coming to us from Costa Rica.
I'm coming to you from wonderful Costa Rica.
Like, how did you end up down there? Little sidetrack question.
When COVID was going on, I lived in Canada at the time, have lived there most of my life actually, but originally from Britain. We didn't really want to be a part of the chaos. And so we had the option to move and the capabilities to do so. So we went to America for a year. To a very small town in the peninsula, in the Panhandle. And then we came here and we've settled, we've purchased property, and we're in the countryside away from everyone. So it's a better environment for us right now. The environment of the last few years was not healthy for us. So we chose to leave, find somewhere better.
I'm glad you found a happy place.
Do you want to stop there? Because that is so important, right? Like environment could be literally your home, right? Or it could be bigger as your like country and your community and your stress level. So like, let's just go there. Like environment is so key to healing. Like just nip it right there.
So when did you move out to your farm?
So I actually lived in a city and I got sick, and I was finding that I did not have the resources to commute and take care of myself and to operate in that city. And I moved home to the country with my parents. I will say environment was a struggle there because a lot of people move home with families and get a different level of stress. I didn't have city stress, but then I had the emotional stress of like dealing with a caretaker situation, people that might not have been prepared for that. So I won't say like that's a solution, but we moved to the country, slower way of life, more trees, more birds, less semi trucks outside the window.
Hey. All right, let's get going. Thanks for that. Now, what were you doing before you got diagnosed or before you came down with the symptoms of Lyme disease?
So I was I was a vice president of a property management company in Canada. So we managed assets for individuals. So commercial properties, large condominium properties. I had about 20 properties that I managed. So very fast paced, very aggressive environment. So it was go, go, go. And then it was then that I got diagnosed.
And so what were your symptoms that led you to get diagnosed, to go to the doctor? What was wrong?
Well, I had a bullseye rash, but at the time I didn't have any symptoms. The symptoms started maybe 7 to 10 days after the bullseye rash. I didn't know what the bullseye rash was. I had never heard of Lyme disease, so I didn't connect the dots until a lot later.
I have to pause there. I feel like I have failed the world entirely if at this point there are people who don't know what Lyme disease was.
Like, because we talk about the lack of
mind.
awareness, we don't know that a bullseye rash means Lyme. Like CDC, whoever, like this should be the standard of information, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. All right, here we go.
But severe headaches were the first, and fevers, lots of anxiety, rapid heartbeat, just felt maybe sinusitis, flu-like symptoms, but my head, there was so much pain in my head, more so than I've ever had before. And then shortly after that was numbness in my left side, tingling in my hands, in my extremities, in my feet, and then loss of feeling from my knee down on my left side. And then facial palsy, but mine was all on the left side. Loss of balance, gosh, the list goes on, but I say it really started with the severe headaches. And just, I would be in the moment, but then all of a sudden I would just go to the ground, not passing out 100%, but close to passing out, just knew I couldn't stay erect. And that's when I went to the doctors. I was in America at the time on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came back to Calgary in Canada, I went to the doctors. We did the blood test, the Western blot. They said everything was fine. I showed one marker for Lyme. I guess that wasn't enough. And they didn't acknowledge my symptoms, but they did say maybe I had Parkinson's disease or I was menopausal. At the time, I would have been.
Sorry to laugh. That's
40s.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
That just blew me away that the doctor would actually suggest, oh, it's just menopause. I mean, that's like
Oh man,
medicine out of the 50s.
that's so funny that you think that because I had similar things. Like anxiety was a huge initial symptom for me. And I did not have a history of anxiety. I did not have a history of mental illness. And I was having panic attacks. And they said, well, you're clearly just a hormonal woman who's overstressed. And it wasn't one doctor who said this. This was multiple doctors over years that said this. So like, this is a kind of like really painful reality of women, that this is a very common, oh, you're hormonal. Oh, you're emotional. Like,
So when I got started in acupuncture 30 years ago, we kind of, I mean, we joked about it a little bit with doctors, and I thought medicine had moved on from that nonsense.
mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, dear, you'll feel better once you start your period. Okay, dear, you'll feel better once you have a baby. Okay, dear, you'll feel better, once we remove all your organs. Okay, dear, it must be all in your head.
It's kind of so upsetting how much it still is there. Like the way it's
unbelievable.
presented is slightly different. Like, we're not told to go put our dresses on and go back to the kitchen, but we're not really like that far past that, which is really crazy. So,
Wow.
yeah, this is kind of painful. Yeah.
Yeah. So we go from menopause or being stressed out to
Yes.
possibly Parkinson's and
Yeah.
and a list of other things in between.
And how long did it take for you to get properly diagnosed?
It certainly wasn't with the help of Western medicine. It was through my own research and the research of my husband, and just connecting the dots and saying, which was a rash, essentially, which was a rash. I sought out a Lyme literate doctor. She's a naturopath in Calgary. I was very fortunate. She had Lyme disease earlier in her life,
Mm-hmm.
and she has now dedicated her life to treating Lyme. So 9 months later, by that time, I didn't even recognize myself. I wasn't working. I wasn't able to drive. And she put me on the NutriMedics protocol, very similar to the Cowden protocol, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. And I did NutriMedics, tinctures and Chinese medicine and supplements. And I was supervised by her the whole step of the way, which was a good 2 years of strengthening my immune system, getting rid of a lot of the bacteria, a lot of detoxification techniques. And then after about 2 years, we started pulsing. So I started pulsing with the different tinctures.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say about 4 months into pulsing, my symptoms, each time I pulsed, got less and less. I felt less and less unwell every time I pulsed. And then I had no symptoms. And that's when we stopped the tinctures, but I still focused on diet, exercise, my lifestyle
Sure.
changed, and I maintain it today. So I'm about 5 years healed. I don't call it remission, because I feel that every time I pulsed, I could feel the die-off. I could acknowledge the die-off. And so I've been symptom-free for close to 5 years. But I'm still very careful with diet. Yeah.
Yes.
I have a very strict diet, no artificial sugars at all. But I'm better for it. You know, I'm better for it. I'm healthier for it.
Yes.
So as I go into my kind of later years, into my retirement years, I'm in a better position than I was before I had Lyme. And I strongly feel that. I do.
So it wasn't, we can clearly at this point rule out menopause as the cause of your symptoms.
I think so. And the, you know.
I think I'm so funny.
Women might disagree, but yes.
The Parkinson's disease.
Well, hang on there for a second. I'm agreeing with you guys. I'm not disagreeing with you guys.
Yeah, but we can make fun of it. You can't, right? Like, we'll let you in.
I claim my right as an alternative health practitioner to laugh at doctors. There we go.
You know, I get it. The brain fog, the loss of memory. You know, I get it, but Western medicine failed me 100%. I was this menopausal, hysterical woman that all her life had been healthy, never been to a emergency room before, but calling 911 because I thought I was having a heart attack. I was meant to feel like I was just mental. Beyond help. Yeah, mental. Yep. Business professional.
So all you non-British people, mental means crazy across the pond. So we're using her language.
History speaks for itself. But you know, you take control and you say, no, something is wrong and my life is worthy. And so I was lucky to find someone that could help me. Yeah, financially, you have to pay for that, which is a shame. But the herbal protocol worked for me, and I'm grateful for it.
Now, one technical question. During the pulsing, what was the periodicity of it? What was the timing of it?
Yes, so Cemento and Banderol were the tinctures that I started off with until I reached that maximum that you have to reach.
Yep.
And then I waited for about 3 to 4 months because mentally I had to understand what was going to happen when I pulsed. And I needed to prepare myself to feel unwell again.
Right.
Possibly. So we came off tinctures for 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hit it with 2 more sets of tinctures. So each time the Nutramatic tinctures were different.
Okay.
I would stay on them for 2 weeks at a certain dose. Then I would go off again for 48 hours.
Okay,
then I
so
would
just
hit
for
it for a
short
period of time.
Yeah,
short period of time.
Yep. People have different ideas about that. So I'm just curious about what you did. And then my last. So, Lauren, what are your ideas of pulsing? I see your head nodding and bobbing.
I think she just got a really, really good doctor. Like, I think one of the things that I really struggle with is even Cowden himself, the inventor of Nutramatics, says that once you feel better, continue for 2 months. But the problem is that I see people say, good, I'm done. And we don't talk about that cyst form. We don't talk about that stuff lingering in the bone tissue and the stuff that's not as accessible. So this idea of pulsing is so solid, like endorsed by Gemtech, endorsed by a lot of leading LMDs in different categories. But I feel like pulsing is just so important that she's, it's a life journey. It's not I'm done, So I just think that's fantastic. And I see people that integrate herbals long-term in a pulse or or whatever, I forgot for 2 months and then I jump back on, it doesn't matter, but they understand that they still have to be actively making sure that they're cleansing the body. So I think that's gold.
Awesome. Last question for you. What did you do to keep mentally strong? Is that something that you had just developed
Yeah.
in your work life, or did you have support?
You know, I did have support. I absolutely did. But the support was from my family. And I think unless you physically walked a path, it's very, very difficult for them to know exactly. So you have to do this yourself. You have to mentally get in gear. You have to know that this requires patience, endurance. And the only way I could do it was to tell myself I was at war and there was an enemy that was going to take my life. And so I had to be better. I had to understand how Lyme survived and how it multiplied. And I had to cut off an energy source. And I also had to adopt detoxification methods that I knew were going to destroy it. That's why I did saunas, I did Rife machines, I did everything I could from every angle. I hit it because I knew I was weakening the energy source of the Lyme. Same way it was weakening my energy source, I decided to weaken its energy source. And I did over time. I didn't give it the option to take a breath and regenerate. I just kept hitting it. And yes, I felt awful, but it was a good awful. I knew it was the die-off. And that's when I got a sauna. And that's when I was able to control the detox. So I didn't feel terrible all the time. There was a balance. Sure. Because I had to be sympathetic to my body, but I knew what my body could take. And it was just for that period of time in my life. And then I knew I was going to be okay. It was for just now. It was for just now. And it was mental. It was all mental.
Yes.
It was all mental.
Now that you're feeling better, what are your plans?
Yeah. Well, you know, I've been better 5 years. And I still work. I work remotely, but my life's totally different. I'm in a beautiful country. I'm more with nature, which is a healer.
Yes.
I have less stress in my life. And I'm not saying there's not a place for Western medicine. There is, but I stay away from it. I dictate what happens to my body. I take care of myself. There are alternatives. And, you know, I just live life. I help other sufferers if I can. Some I know I can't. But I'm somebody that has recovered. I'm somebody that can offer support. And like I said, I can help. If I help one person and that person helps one person,
yes,
then having Lyme was worth it. Because I don't want anybody to go through what I went through. You don't want that for other people. So that's what I do. You know, I do a bit of everything, but I'm always going to be connected to Lyme. It changed my life, and I found the positive in my experience, or else I wouldn't be speaking to you today, because it was a very dark time. And you have to work so hard to get out of it. It's a solitary place. You've got to dig deep, but you can do it. You can. And like I say, it's just for now. It's not forever. It's not forever. And so, you know, keep advancing forward. Keep advancing forward. That's what I do.
Vivienne, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so grateful that you reached out. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
I like her.
Isn't she lovely?
She is. She is like a powerhouse, but not in the like, you know, we're going to destroy cities. We're going to destroy cities like nicely and in a way that makes sense. Like, I really like that.
Exactly. And I specifically asked that question about mindset at the end because the other thing that's find fascinating and so inspiring, speaking to these people who've been through Lyme and are willing to share their stories, they all draw some positive out of this misery that they've been through. And she said it was dark. And a lot of times people use dark as a euphemism from a feeling suicidal. So, and but to reach back and to say, you know what, that doesn't define me. It's part of who I am. It's part of my history, and it contributed to me and made me who I am and a better person, and I'm stronger for it.
And literally stronger, right? She was saying how much healthier she has been since the experience, changing her lifestyle. And I think that's a huge reflection of a lot of people is saying, I might not have been the best to my body that got me here. Yes, the disease was a trigger, but maybe I had been doing some stuff that might not be conducive to healing before that.
And the other thing is she mentioned nutrimetics in the Cowden protocol. Now, have you done the Cowden protocol? I've done it a couple times.
I have not personally done it, but Lyme Warrior does have a discount code for it for anybody who wants to try it. It's just Lyme Warrior, and that will get you a discount code. I love that protocol, though. I have done something that's very similar, overlapping in herbals, but I work one-on-one with an herbalist, so it's a little more customized. But man, that protocol has lasted through time, right? Like this has been around for decades at this point as a staple. So I have nothing but good things to say.
It covers all the bases from
It does.
detox through co-infections through opportunistic viral infections. I mean, just the whole gamut.
That's what I
And
love. A little
yeah,
parasite, a little mold, a little virus. It gives you such a nice span that I think is really, really
and
important if you don't know everything that's inside you.
yeah, and it won't break the bank. It's not cheap, but it's not crazy expensive either. It's like, you
Yeah.
can have a bake sale or pancake breakfast and pay for a month of it. So
Well, and if you're super sensitive like me, like one drop will do you. Like, some of those tinctures, they're like, oh, it'll last you a month. I'm like, well, I'm 6 months in and I'm still at one drop a day,
still one box,
So,
yeah. Yeah, and
yeah.
that's the other beautiful thing is being able to titrate by a drop
Yep.
rather than capsule. Having open capsule is also
I am
um,
such an advocate of, some people are like, one drop puts me on my butt. And I was like, okay, put it in a glass of water and
and
split that drop.
have
Like,
a sip, right?
yep, I've been there. So if you're like that, no shame. Like, sometimes that's where you are.
So as a reminder, please visit limewarriors.us. Is it plural or singular? Do I have it wrong?
Singular. You went
Oh, wait a
wild.
minute. Good
Just Lyme
grief.
Warrior.
I'm
It's
sending
just
people to the
about
wrong
you.
place. Wait, we can actually fix it on the fly. There we go. Hang on.
And same for the code. No
There we
plural,
go.
just singular.
Hey. And so the code for the discount, if you go to the Nutrimetics website, is that how you get the
Yeah,
code?
just go to the regular Nutrimetics website, and as an ongoing code, Lyme Warrior, it's off everything. If you want to do full protocols, you want to do individual tinctures, there's some really great targeted tinctures that they just released for infections. So, like, those are pretty neat.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. And also, I do want to mention real quickly that we do have the Primal Trust program going on at limewater.us and recommend that to get your mindset right, to get strong, especially if you don't have that family support and you're looking at ways to kind of stay strong and to win them over to your side. Something like Primal Trust can really put the ducks in a row for you.
Put the strength back in the human.
Put the strength back in the human and your ducks if you have them in a row. If you don't have
Yeah.
ducks, maybe your bees.
If you don't have
Or
ducks, maybe you should get ducks.
or you're like Lauren and you have ducks and chickens and llamas and what else do you have on your farm? You got everything.
Oh, it's a shorter list to say what we don't have, right? Like, so I'm just saying maybe you should get some ducks for those bees and those cows.
We had a couple ducks. We had something. We think a weasel got after him and just anyway.
Oh,
It was a
never mind. No
bloodhouse.
more ducks for you.
We like ducks.
Just your emotional ducks in a row. How's
And
that?
emotional ducks. Oh, that's so funny. Anyway, before we spend the rest of the time talking about farm animals and life on the farm here, thank you all for joining us. We know you have a lot of choices out there listen to, and we appreciate you spending time with us. And we'll see you in another week with another inspiring story about getting well even after coming down with Lyme disease. It can be done. The world needs you and your gifts, and we got to get you back on track, back out there, feeling good and spreading the message of hope. So we'll see you all next week.
Lyme Ninja Radio is a purely public broadcast and is not intended to be personalized medical advice for any individual's specific situation. Each individual's medical situation is unique, and Lyme Ninja Radio should not be relied upon and or considered as personalized medical advice. Lyme Ninja Radio is not licensed to render medical advice and should be considered simply the public opinion of Lyme Ninja Radio and its guests. Recommendations on specific treatment options are not intended to address any listener's particular medical situation. As always, contact your physician before considering any new treatment.